Sit down. I want to tell you something my father never got to hear from his father because his father died at 54. And back then, dying at 54 wasn't a tragedy. It was Tuesday. I am 79 years old. I made it through the years I'm about to describe to you, and I did not make it through cleanly. I want to tell you why the decade between 50 and 60 is the most dangerous stretch you will ever walk. More dangerous than your 20s when you drove too fast. More dangerous than your 40s when you thought you were finally strong enough to carry everyone. Nobody warns you about this decade because it doesn't look dangerous. There's no war, no enemy at the door. You still go to work. You still pay the bills. From the outside, 50 looks like the safest, most stable decade of your life. That is exactly what makes it lethal. Let me give you the reasons, one at a time, and then I'll tell you how the old people survived it because they did, and their way still works. The first danger is your body starts lying to you. At 40, when something hurt, you knew why. You lifted wrong. You slept wrong. There was a reason, and the reason made sense. At 50, things start hurting for no reason at all, and that absence of a reason is what fools you. You think, this will pass, the way everything always passed before, so you don't go to the doctor. You don't get the test. My friend Daniel ignored a tightness in his chest for 4 months because he had ignored worse things at 30, and they'd gone away on their own. At 30, the body forgives. At 50, it stops forgiving and starts collecting. Daniel found that out on a Tuesday morning in a hardware store parking lot. He lived. Not everyone does. The second danger is that you are still needed by everyone and helped by no one. Your kids are old enough to need money, not old enough to be gone. Your parents are old enough to need care, not gone yet either. You are the roof over 2 generations at the exact moment your own roof starts leaking. And nobody thinks to ask if you're all right, because from where they stand, you are the strong one. You are the one who holds things up. I watched a woman named Rita bury her mother, refinance her house to help her son, and go back to work the same week. And when I asked her how she was doing, she looked genuinely confused by the question. Nobody had asked her that in 3 years. She had forgotten it was a question people were allowed to ask her. The third danger is quieter than the first 2, and it is the one that kills the most people, even though it never makes a sound. Somewhere around 55, you start doing math you never used to do. You count the years your father lived and subtract your current age from it. You count how many more times you'll see your grandchildren graduate anything. This math arrives uninvited, and it does not leave. Some men handle this by working harder, like they can outrun the number. Some handle it by disappearing into a bottle, or a new house, or a new wife 20 years younger than the old one, all in a desperate attempt to make the math say something different. It never does. The math is patient. It waits for you no matter which direction you run. The fourth danger, and the one that surprised me most, is that this decade takes your friends without asking permission. That's 4 dangers now, and I bet one of them landed harder than the rest. Tell me which one in the comments. Not the polite answer, the real one, the thing you're actually sitting in right now, this week, while everything else keeps moving. I read them, all of them. Some weeks I scroll through your words at the kitchen table with cold coffee, and honestly, that's the part that keeps me steady when my own week is falling apart. So, say it plain. And it's true, this decade doesn't just pull them slowly, not to death yet mostly, to divorce, to distance, to disease, to their own private collapses that they don't tell you about until it's already happened. My circle of close friends went from 9 men to 4 between my 52nd birthday and my 59th. Some died. Most just drifted, buried in their own versions of everything I've just described, too tired to keep calling anyone back. There is a fifth danger, and it has no event attached to it. Somewhere in this decade, you catch your reflection in a window you weren't expecting, and for half a second you see your father standing there instead of yourself. Then it's you again. That half second happens more as the years go on, and each time it does, it asks a question you were not ready for at 20 or 30 or even 40. Who exactly have you become, and does that person resemble anyone you set out to be? Most men shove the question down and keep walking. I did it for 6 years straight. So how did the old ones survive this stretch? They didn't survive it comfortably, and they didn't survive it by pretending it wasn't happening. They survived it because they had one thing that most of us no longer have by default, a place where their weight was allowed to be visible. In my grandfather's time, a man in his 50s sat with the other men in his 50s, not to talk about business, not to compete, just to sit and be seen carrying what he was carrying. Nobody performed strength there. Everybody already knew what 55 felt like because they were living it too. That circle did not fix anything. Rita's mother would still have died. Daniel's chest would still have hurt. But the weight had somewhere to go besides straight down into one man's chest, alone at 11 at night, staring at a ceiling. I joined a version of that circle at 56. 4 men who met on Wednesday mornings before anyone had to be anywhere, and I did not say a real sentence for the first 3 months. I just sat there and listened to other men say things I had never said out loud in my own kitchen. Then one Wednesday I said mine. It was about my son and about a mistake I made with him 11 years earlier that I had never told a single living person. Nothing was fixed by saying it, but something in my chest that had been clenched since I was 50 finally opened its hand. If you're in this decade right now, here is what I would tell my own sons. Get the test you've been putting off. Today, not next month. Find one person, just one, who you can tell the truth to when someone asks how you're doing, and practice telling them the truth instead of the automatic fine. And stop trying to outrun the math. You cannot win that race. Nobody has. The only thing you can do is turn around, look at it, and decide what you're going to do with the years the math is telling you about, instead of spending all of them running from the number. 50 to 60 will not feel dangerous while you're in it. It will feel like an ordinary decade of an ordinary life, bills and birthdays, and a body that aches a little more each year. That is exactly the disguise it wears. I did not know how close I came until I was standing on the other side of it, looking back at how thin the ice had actually been the whole time I was walking on it. Tell me in the comments, if you are in this decade right now, what is it costing you that nobody else can see? I read every one of them. And if this reached something in you tonight, stay close. There is more I still need to say.